Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios Presents Stories. Are you looking for an ASD life coach who's coming from a social work and social services side? Well, my next guest is just that. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, and I'll see you on the other side. See you there.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's pop.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios Presents Stories. Today I am joined with Dylan how do I pronounce your last name?
Mariglia, it's a tongue twister. Everyone,
Briglia.
has trouble with it. It's okay.
All right, Dylan. So tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, I don't even know where to get started. Professionally, I suppose, right? I'm a life coach now with ASD Life Coaches. My background's actually in social work, and social service work. I'm actually from Canada, which might come as a shock because I know ASD Life Coaches is from, I believe it's based in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great thing to be here and to be connected with everyone. I never thought I'd be, working for a company in the States and doing all that stuff from here. So it's really awesome. And yeah, I like to stay active. I like to talk to people, obviously. And yeah,
So you are autistic yourself, am I right?
no, I'm not actually.
All right. So how did you get involved with autism life coaching?
Yeah, so funny enough, another coach that you've had on the show recently, Miriam McGower,
Oh, sweet,
she
very sweet
yeah,
woman.
oh amazing, the
I
best.
talked with her and her brother.
Yes, Yusuf as well. And she referred me. I was looking just for something that I was a little bit more in tune with professionally, something that I really wanted to look for, and she gave me the opportunity and just connected me really, and it went from there. um in the past through school, I've had many experiences and many placements in, elementary schools to high schools to places like Alzheimer's societies where I'm working with seniors and adults, right?
Mhm.
I've worked with anyone who is a newborn to 85. And I've had a few clients, of course, over those years that are diagnosed ASD or on the spectrum of some sort or identify with that. And I've always just really enjoyed it. I've found so much interest and intrigue in it. And I've also just found that I can be maybe the best version professionally that I can be when I'm, working with that client base. So I really do enjoy it. And I've uh, just really been excited to get the opportunity to finally really dive into it for the first time fully and
Mm.
have my intention on it. So yeah.
So you're from Canada. Whereabouts did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised Niagara Falls in Canada. So busy touristy area, but it's a small city overall, right? I think just under about 100,000 people. So even though you get a lot of people from all over the world and you see so many different faces all the time, the core people that are here, you kind of know a lot of them. And that's really cool. That's a different experience, I guess, than some most, especially when you're talking about larger US cities and things like that. But I am also partially American as well. My father is, right? So I'm kind of both.
So what have you enjoyed about working with those who are on the spectrum?
Man, I'm not even sure how to answer that question because, I think truly whether you're on the spectrum or not, or you consider yourself you are or not, I think that everyone is just incredibly different, especially coming from a therapeutic or just a conversational point of view. I like in my practice to be very holistic and very about the person and where they're at and who I'm talking to, because I
Mhm.
truly believe that that is the best way to not just be a good coach or therapist or anything like that, but it's just a good way to be a person, right? And be present with whatever that person's goals or needs are, right? So I think one of my favorite parts is just having even further perspectives on kind of what people are, who they think they are, who they want to be. And I haven't really found anything that intrigues me as much, I suppose, as people who identify on the spectrum and kind of their life goals and where they're at. It's such a, dare I say, like a different point of view that I don't think many get to experience. So I'm just happy I can kind of experience that vicariously through someone and be on that journey with them.
So what have you learned from your clients? Have they taught you anything?
So I'm pretty fresh as of right now. So I haven't had many of those experiences, but in the past, um, honestly, and I can use this story, but one of the first ever experiences I had was with a child. He was maybe 5 years old, recently diagnosed in a school setting. And we were playing games and everything. And the entire time that he was playing games, there's a rule set to games or playing with blocks or building or doing
Hmm.
this or doing that. And he always had a different viewpoint. And this was one of my first experiences ever working with someone with autism, even before I had um, any chance to really have any official training or certificates with it, right, that I do now. So I didn't have much perspective. I was really going in just blind, as they say, right, about, what was going to happen or how that works. And all I really had to do was just hang out with him. And so that gave me the opportunity to just have that first experience be really enlightening in a way. He always had a different rule set in his mind. He always had a different perspective on how things could happen. And even if our goals were the same or aligned, he had a different way of getting there. And overall, I think it taught me the lesson truly was just patience and understanding, and not from like a frustrated point of view or like, oh, I want him to do something that I want him to do because this is my perspective, but just really understanding that as a person in this profession, or just as a person in general, you can really take a step back and just like witness someone else's viewpoint or perspective on how they interact with the world around them, and really just learn a lot, right? And that takes patience and understanding. If you want to take charge all the time, that never really happens. So yeah, I think that's like the number one thing I've ever learned.
All right. Get into a little bit more, learn a little bit more about you. What motivates you, inspires you, and drives you?
Ain't that the question, right? That is the toughest question of them all. I think I truly think it's just to help others, or at least just create an environment that people can be helped. Um, I think we've all can speak from experience if you have some years under your belt, and maybe even less than that. But in life, I think everyone probably experiences at some point just what that feels like to maybe be a little bit alone, or to not really have a drive or like a feeling of purpose. And it takes the saying is it takes a village to raise a kid, and things like that. But I also think it takes a community to raise an adult and to raise a person. Um, and I've always wanted to be a part of that. And I feel like that's what ASD Life Coaches is. It's a really amazing community. It's a really amazing experience to be able to bounce ideas off of people like Jacqueline, like Miriam, like Yusuf, and talk to people and just have that compassion and understanding. But more importantly, just be able to drive myself. Um, that's the environment I want to be in. That's the environment I want to create for other people. So I really think like if I wake up every single day and I have a hand in that, I feel really good. I feel like other people are getting what I felt in the past, maybe I didn't, or other people in the future may feel. And any hand in that to me is motivation enough, I guess.
All right. What's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
Oh man. Just in general, like any compliment.
Any compliment?
Um, Man, yeah, that's tough. Probably that I'm just easy to talk to. I think I get it more than any other compliment, and I don't get complimented a lot, I promise. But when I do, I feel like that is one of the things that comes up a lot. And over the many years of helping out friends on school bus rides home, or just in general speaking to family members, or calming someone down when they're in the middle of a crisis. That's the thing I've kind of grown to identify with a little bit, and kind of made it a part of myself, that I really do just enjoy being that person. But that is probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, right? Is that you're easy to talk to. To me, that encompasses so much more than just um, like a good friend, or someone, but really someone that anyone can, I suppose, like speak to, and feel calm, or to feel like trustworthy or anything like that, right?
Hmm. What is your biggest failure and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, yeah. I think I think one of my biggest failures was probably when I was getting into the career I am now. I was applying to many different universities, and one of them is called McMaster. And I specifically remember being very all in on this certain school. It's a very amazing program here in Canada. It's not too far from where I live. It's in a town not far from a place called Hamilton. Um, and I think one of my biggest failures, or I felt at least was one of my biggest failures, was when I got that back and my grades weren't good enough, or why ever they denied me from that school. And at the moment, I felt very lost, you know? And that feeling is kind of what I was referring to before. Like, that feeling doesn't make anyone feel good. It can crush your motivations. It can make you feel very lonely in a sense, right? Even if you have people around you to pick you up, you feel alone in that task, right, being done. And I've always kind of identified as a perfectionist in one or more ways. So failing at stuff like that, it really does ring a bell in my head as like one of the hardest times.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think I would be the person I was today though, and or the schools I went to after that, or the direction with my professional career after that, if I hadn't had an experience where I felt like that, lost in maybe what I wanted to do or where I want to be.
Hmm. Now, let's talk about, can you name three influential people in your life and how they impacted you?
Oh, more than definitely. I think about this stuff more than more than a lot of things. I think first and foremost, I'd have to probably say, just out of the gate, my sister. Um, she's also a psychotherapist, and has been more than just a sister, or on many occasions. But growing into my adult life, I've found that she's a mentor to me, right, in my professional career, but also just like my what I would describe as my emotional career, right? Teaching me, many life lessons through building myself professionally, or building myself in general. Um, People like that, you call them family because they are family and everything, but you know, I also have the experience to know that family isn't always the people that are those people, right?
Hmm.
Family at the end of the day, it's almost like you can kind of choose who is, right, regardless of how that exists. Um, the second would probably be my great grandfather. I call my Opa because he's on my mom's side, my German heritage side. So that's kind of the word we use for him. He uh, he was a great man. Came from very, very, very humble beginnings before the World Wars. He has a huge story. I could talk about it for ages, because I just think that the life that he laid out for himself, not professionally, but as a man, as a person, the influence he has, and the stories that other people come and tell us about him, really do to strike a large kind of motivation under myself.
Hmm.
Um, to see someone accomplish so much with so little is a feat I think that people call short of a miracle sometimes. And that, is something that uh, uh, is a perspective, sorry, that I suppose you can't really get anywhere else, especially when you're so connected to it. I even have tattooed on my arm a quote from him that says, "What will the world have in store for you?" And that's a big perspective changer, right? We had close to, I want to say, almost 80 years difference between us. And when you think about that perspective and you think about how wise you have to say to hold a small child or a toddler or a baby and then say those words really does grant you that perspective of what's going to happen in the next lifetime, right? So to have that deep understanding about the future is something that I've always carried with me. And then the last person I want to say is probably, I want to probably say one of my first ever placement supervisors. Her name is Ashley. She works at a place called Big Brothers Big Sisters. I don't know if we have that in the US, but we certainly do have it in Canada.
We
And
have it
it's a,
here, definitely.
oh, beautiful. Okay, amazing. And it's really like the stuff that she did and taught me has always been really amazing. It just kind of got me very comfortable and out of my shell to be working with all different types of people from different backgrounds and placements of need. Um, and throughout, I mean, it's been probably close to 5 or 6 years now, and we still keep in touch once in a while. She still is a reference for me. She still mentors me in many different ways and keeps up with everything. And honestly, I urge anyone listening who wants some volunteer to definitely go and apply at your local Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's such a great experience. It teaches you so much.
All right. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
Hmm. I think it's honestly when I'm creating, which is a little out of left field, I suppose, about what I've been talking about so far. But I think the thing that inspires me the most is just creating or creation in general. Whether that's a program, for uh, uh, people in need, in any need, right? Or if that's me making a board game from scratch, or me doing virtual art, or um, anything like that. I think I feel the most inspired when I'm, kind of in a low lit room and I have time to just kind of let my mind wander and do or create whatever I want. I think it's a space that helps me free flow with a lot of different ideas and thinking, and it kind of, is my own therapy in a way, right? And how I calm myself down or how I find some bliss or happiness throughout my day.
Yeah. What makes you feel inspired or like your best? Well, read that. Finish the sentence. I am at my best when.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say I am at my best when my day is done. And if you don't mind, I'll explain that a little bit because it's kind of vague. But I'm at my best when my day is done. To me, means that I've accomplished something. It doesn't necessarily mean that the time is ticked down to midnight and my day is over. Um, but for my day to be done to me is like when that task or that thing that I've had on my mind gets done. Um, it's when I feel accomplished the most. It's when I feel like I've worked towards something, and all of those layers in between of starting to being frustrated with not being able to finish it to finding inspiration throughout and then finishing it, um, is I think when I'm at my best is when I can step back and look at something that I've done and be very happy or pleased looking back at the journey itself of doing that thing. An example of this to me would just be simply, if I have something about myself emotionally that I've been struggling with, because we're all
Mhm.
human and we all do, um, I think working toward that is a long journey. And once I can take a step back and say like, wow, look how I've changed or look how I've bettered myself in a way, um, that is when I feel like I'm at my best, because there's no feeling like that makes you motivated for the next thing ahead of you. That's
Yeah.
true.
Okay. If you can go back and turn in time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him about where you are now in life?
Oh man. Probably just to keep going, you know? Um, 18 feels like it was forever ago, but it was only 7 years ago for me. I know that's not a long time for some people. But so much has changed since then, and I think my 18-year-old self really didn't understand how quickly things can change. For the good or the bad, right? I'm very realistic in that view. Um,
Hmm.
Things can change all the time. And I think my advice to him would just to be to keep going, not to stop, not to dwell on certain things. And I think I still struggle with that now. I don't think it's a long journey to really understand what that means and how life can hit you in multiple ways, good or bad, all the time. But I think to understand that life does have that flow, and that people who are upset may say nothing good lasts. Well, nothing bad lasts either, right? It's really just in a state of always changing. Um, and I think in a weird way that motivates me that nothing can be permanent in that way.
Hmm.
And in a weird way that can be calming for me as well. Um, to know that whatever is presently an issue may not be in the future, and new challenges I may get the privilege to face, right?
Hmm.
Um, Whatever that means and whatever outcome I get to step back to at the end of the day and feel accomplished, then that's, on my plate for then.
All right. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. I think, well, that's going to be ironic me saying that, but I would want the billboard to just say think. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Just think. Um, like I said earlier, I have a very holistic point of view when it comes to relationships with people, with clients, with work, with whatever. Um, Everything has good and bad. Everything has balance. Everything changes, right? That's kind of been the theme of what I've been talking about a lot. I've noticed. And I think at the core of that is the mind, is what our perspective is on our daily tasks, on our motivation, on our inspirations.
Mm.
And I think nowadays, society as a whole really does like to push and like to create a flow of its own. And it's very, very easy to get caught up in that flow and that speed or that tempo of life. Um, it can be very frustrating to people, some exhilarating, right? We all have a different take on that. But to be the powerful one in that situation, to be the one that has control over that, and to create our own environment or happiness throughout all of that, because society ain't going nowhere. It's not going to be changing anytime soon for us, as much as I wish it would. I think we have to really just deeply go inside of ourselves and think, what does that look like? How does that look for me? What do I want? And what do the people that I love want? Right?
Mm.
Um, what communities do I want to create? Who do I want to create them with? And it's so easy to get caught up in, like I said, the tempo that we just don't take a step back and really think about what that means or what we do want. So yeah, definitely it would just say think. And maybe it would inspire some people to look at that vaguely and be like, oh, that's dumb. But some people may look at that and actually be like, think about what and what should I be thinking about, and start asking those questions that I think leads to the answers that we want.
All right. What do you think the world will look like in 5 years from now?
5 years. I think it'll look similar. Um, I'm a big history guy. I really do like history. And the more that you look at history, the more that you look at like the generational theory, and a lot of those interesting points that I love to always talk about with my friends at like late night talks and stuff, the more you realize that humans are and have always been humans, right? We change and we adapt the way that we talk or think about things. Maybe some of our perspectives or societal norms, right? Um, that happens all the time, and I'm sure that that stuff will change, right? I'm sure we'll have a cool new language for certain things. Maybe we'll have a different word for certain diagnoses in the future in my professional career. Maybe, uh, different hair colors will be cooler then. But I think humans at the core are always going to be humans. We have that human condition with us. We carry it with us wherever we go. Um, Throughout history, we've seen time and time again how that stays the same. So unironically, I think my answer to that would be in 5 years, it would probably be really similar if we made those connections, right?
All right. Would you consider yourself an introvert, an extrovert, or an ambivert?
Ooh, probably an ambivert. That's both, right?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, probably both. Um, my big theme is balance, right? I love to be alone, to create and to do fun stuff. Um, but I think my friends would say that I'm an extrovert because of how much I like to talk. But that's only one side of ourselves. And I subscribe to a lot of different therapeutic modalities, and a lot of those, specifically dialectical behavioral therapy, can say that two things can exist at once, right? How we handle that cognitive dissonance and how we handle certain things can be like that. So I think it's okay to be like, yeah, I like to be inside. I like to be a homebody sometimes, but I also really love to go out and have a drink with some friends, and spend some time out and stay up maybe a little too late. Yeah, for sure.
All right. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be and why?
Hmm. That's a big legacy question, huh? Like it's tough to say. I feel like the answer to that only comes when it's there, right?
Mm,
But if I just had to guess or put a word on it, I suppose it would just be um kindness. It seems maybe a little bit of a cop out answer, huh? But um I feel like kindness is one of those things that is so simple but yet so elegant. To be a nice person is harder and harder to come by sometimes, we feel these days, um, because of the push from society to do so many things as an individual, that I think I would just want to be seen as kind,
all
most
right.
definitely.
All right. Now we get to the part of the show that everyone wants to hear.
Beautiful.
Besides learning about you, I want to
Yeah,
remind everybody to like and subscribe. And here we go.
of course.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, wow. Not one that I use all the time to not sound pompous, but lexicon. It's a
All
word
right.
that means more words. That's always good.
All right. What is your least favorite word?
Hate. I think that strikes a bone.
All right. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, and emotionally? Or emotionally?
Yeah, I think I could answer those separately if that's okay.
That's fine.
Spiritually, I think is alone time. That inspires me to, like I said, be able. I'm a big thinker. I'm a big philosophical person. I like to look in those things. So spiritually, definitely alone time, time with yourself, and time with your own thoughts, and creating what spirituality looks like to you. Emotionally, friends, family, without a doubt, charge me emotionally, good and bad. Family can get on our nerves, friends can get on our nerves, but I've always done really well with an external mirror, let's say. A friend or family member who I'm talking to out loud about my emotions is always something that bounces back to me and inspires me, and also just makes me think so much more intricately about what's going on and with more clarity, right?
Mhm.
So I like to use that term like an external mirror, right? Um, and then creatively, what inspires me creatively is just myself. I take a lot of creative ideas. Like I said, I wasn't kidding about making board games and virtual art. I do that all the time. Um, I love to share that type of stuff with people. I think it brings people together, creativity. I'm the type of person that just naturally, I suppose, in my mind, just I'm always trying to think of something new or fresh or creative or a new project I can just get my hands on. Um, Something maybe relatable to some people is if you ever drive or bike ride or take the bus or whatever, be beside a big open field. I always turn to my friends and I'm like, man, think about all the stuff we could like build on that field. You know, like I see a blank canvas in the world around me sometimes. Um, and that gets me really excited. My significant other would say the same thing. I always turn to him like, "Oh, look at that field." Like she makes a joke out of it. She laughs at me all the time about it because it's such a silly thing, but that is truly where I do find creation is just in the blankness of open spaces and within myself.
All right. What turned you off?
Ooh. Um, I think just when people or others or even ideas, because it's not just a personal thing, but just in general, if something or an idea or someone's idea can be uninterested,
Mm-hmm.
that can sometimes turn me off in a way because being disinterested sometimes can be the lack of courage to find out more. I definitely surround myself with people who are always looking for more or always trying to achieve more. Um, and when someone is in that rut where they feel like they can't or are uninterested in a lot of things in life, because it's very easy, myself included, to get that way. I think it's very important to have people around you to pick you up and find things that are interesting again. And that could just be daily life stuff. I've always been taught, and one of my social service worker diplomas, one of my early days in college, I had a director who retired, unfortunately, the year that I left Niagara College here. His name was Phil, and he always talked about um, daily active living or daily accomplishments in life, right? The need for the human condition to always be working towards something, whether that be big or small, a part of themselves, or, even if it's just like washing some clothes that day. I think if you don't find things interesting, that's when you get, sometimes the worst points in people is when they feel the worst about themselves as well and need that support or help. So I mean, I'd hate to ever call it, or I'd not like to call it, something that's a turn off, I guess, for myself. But I definitely say that that's something that I'm always looking out for in a way, or I can always kind of recognize the negative in being disinterested.
All right. What is your favorite curse word?
Uh, Probably the F word. Yeah, being from Canada, I know the stereotype is that, we're a bunch of cowboys kind of out here sometimes, or some like ranch people or farmer types because we have a lot of open space and that is what we do. But with that comes, like the hard trucker language sometimes. So definitely just the F word, the solid, word that it's an easy go-to, I think for anyone.
All right. What is your favorite sound or noise?
Ooh, sound or noise? This is kind of out of left field for me as well, but recently on the internet there was this big kind of like trend going around that scientists finally kind of reimagined what the T-Rex would sound like. Have you heard that?
No.
It's something I urge you to look up. But I think that's my favorite noise right
All right.
now. There's something about the tonality of it and just the ferocity or intimidation that truly makes the feeling of like, wow, dinosaurs were real. And that was like a real noise that if I heard, I would understand why people, say that that was like the king of the dinosaurs. So that's definitely something I would talk about.
All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
the classic nails on a chalkboard, or like the really high pitch squeaks of like brakes on a car. My car included with their rough brakes. Yeah, definitely something like that.
All right,
Without a doubt.
right. What is your favorite color?
Used to be red all my life. Now it's green. I don't know if that's because I've seen some more nature parks lately, or traveled a bit more, but a nice verdant green would be the one that I would think about.
All right. What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
Oh man, like if I could pick anyone,
Yeah.
I'd probably just lean really hard into my creative side and say like a video game story writer or designer, or just a tabletop or a board game designer. I kind of do that as a hobby already, but if for whatever reason this dream of mine to in this profession just somehow came to a halt, I think I would definitely pursue that
Mm.
as well.
Have you ever thought of like putting one of your games like on Kickstarter and seeing where where it'd go?
Oh, most definitely, right? I mean, it's one of those like dreams that, anyone would just like have to make that go somewhere. But I think at the end of the day, I would feel like the success in that, but what I do with like this practice or ASD life coaches or just like my background in social work and therapy and those things, I would feel a little emptiness, I think, and not being able to have conversations like this or conversations with people every day about some of the deepest stuff.
Mm.
I'm very like philosophical. I really love to get deep. I've always been that way, and I've kind of felt like I've turned that into a way to speak with other people about their lives and their deep stuff, and sometimes just surface level stuff as well, right? But just to be able to help people is such a hard void to fill that I don't think even the success with something like that could fill that void. But 100% I've thought about it.
All right. Let's go back a question and
Mhm.
ask, what is your least favorite color?
Ooh, my best friend's gonna be really mad that I said this, but it's yellow. I don't know why. It just is. It's one of those colors where I'm like, ugh, I don't think I'd wear that.
All right. What profession would you not like to do?
Hmm. I've always been a very like jack of all trades interested person into stuff where I could be like, oh, maybe I could get really like um enthralled in something new. So it's very hard for me to answer that question. I think it would be something like very dangerous, where I was just like, that's not something I'd want to do every day. Um, that's like out of my hands with like nature. Like I would say like the guys who bravely work on like oil rigs out in the middle of the ocean or are always on like sea boats. Maybe I just have a fear of the ocean. I don't know. But something like that I think would definitely be something I was like, I'd rather just not do anything than be out there.
All right. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, wow. That's gonna take me a minute. I think I would want to hear the confirmation of everything does happen for a reason. I wouldn't want like you did good or you did bad or any idea like that. I don't think anyone would really want to hear just full judgment, right?
Hmm.
But I would want to know that whatever I did or decisions I made were not set in any way, but are okay. Like that everything that happens in life happens. And I think I would find the most peace in knowing that mistakes or successes are just kind of a part of life, and that is okay.
Hmm.
I think that's what most people I think fear as well.
All right. When you arrive at heaven, who would you like to meet?
Probably just my great grandfather, my opa again. Um, I was so young when he passed that I didn't really understand the lessons until I was older that he gave us. And I think giving him the recognition and saying, "Hey, I got it. If you didn't know, I got it," is something that I wouldn't want to do for myself, but to give him. So
Mm.
I think that would probably be my first go-to.
All right. Do you have any books you would recommend my audience listen to or read?
Ooh. Well, on the topic, I suppose, of religion in a way, I do really enjoy religion, philosophy, and those things. One of my favorite books is Dante's Inferno.
Mm.
Um, it's based on religion, but you don't like I'm not, anything like that. Like if you're not big on religion, you can still read it and be very, very happy with what you're reading in a way. It's just a very old piece of writing that's written in a way that almost needs to be translated sometimes. So it's a challenge to read, number one, which is always great. I think challenges are awesome if you can overcome them and just learn something new. But secondly, to read something that was written so many hundreds and hundreds of years ago, I think is inspirational in a way. There's a lot of philosophy about life and how things should be. There's references to politicians at the time, and you really do get an insight of a different life and
Mm.
what they feared and what they really, um, I suppose, like fantasized about in their daily life. And I think that kind of goes back to me saying earlier that like humans don't necessarily change. What we do and how we present ourselves does, how we identify does, but people stay people relatively for the most part. So I think that's a book that I would definitely recommend, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's a tough one to read.
All right. And finally, where can people find out more about you and get a hold of you?
Well, you can always get a hold of me on the website, of course. I keep all of my stuff on there. Everything should be through the website. Um, if you do want to learn more about me, I'm sure I'd be happy to oblige and talk about myself some more. It's never a wrong place to do that. I don't necessarily have any like public Instagram handles or anything like that to promote myself. But if we do get the chance to meet through any means, just say hi and say that maybe you heard me on this podcast or this show and enjoyed it. It's a really awesome one, so might as well give compliments to the chef and yeah.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Reed Miles. That was Dylan Margolia. And I'll see you in the next one. See you there, everybody. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you.